a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and today we've got another in our training support podcast series, and this one is all about spectators. And it's only when you've done your first event, a distance event, that you'll really appreciate the value of your supporters, both your own team and the general group of spectators that hopefully will be lining the course. Obviously, in some races, there's a lot more than others. Do the big city centre races, and the chances are that you're going to be surrounded by tens of thousands, all a 5K in a rural location, and you'll be lucky to get 10. So this is all about getting the most from those that are around you and your specific running crew. So let's talk first of all about what difference do they make? Is it a load of hype, or are they really, really important to you? For me, it was always the case that the spectators give me a target when I'm running. So it might be on a marathon, for example, you've agreed with your group of spectators that they will meet you at 5, 10, 15 and 20 or something like that in terms of mileage. So you've got in your head then a place where you think you're going to be able to meet your team, and it can make a massive difference. It can keep you motivated, knowing if you're in the middle of, say, 5 to 10 miles or 10 to 15, you're at mile 12, for example, you know that in 3 miles time, you're going to see your gang, and that can make a real difference. And it can really encourage you. Honestly, it makes a massive difference when you see your family, for example, or a group of friends and cheering and clapping, and it's just general excitement. It really does give you a massive lift. So what can they do for you? What can your spectator group and the wider spectator team, what can they do to actually support both yourself and other runners? So they might not even know. And this is where the names on the shirts and running vests can make such a difference, of course, because it almost feels like those people are your friends and family when they're shouting out your name. And the key is, making a lot of noise. So we want spectators to make a lot of noise, and, spare a thought for them. It's a long day. If you're out supporting a marathon, it's a long day. It could be a 5 or 6 hour shift out there. And the fact that they're cheering so many names is really impressive. But this is what we want. We want that noise. Some spectators will take those sort of big clappy hand things that you can get that make a lot of noise. Some will take musical instruments and all sorts of different stuff. But ultimately, we need noise. And the more noise that they can make, absolutely the better. And another thing that a lot of spectators do is they make signs, and the signs can also really act as a motivator and encourage you as you're going round. And they might not even be aimed at you. Hopefully your friends and family will make some signs, but you can also benefit from the signs of others. There may be a certain point on the course where you're feeling really low, and you see a sign and it just happens to really touch you, and that can really impact on how you feel at a given stage in that race and encourage you. And obviously, generally speaking, the longer the race, the more encouragement, the more support you'll need. But that's not always the case. It might be that you're doing your first ever 10K, and at mile 3, you're not feeling that great. All of a sudden, you see a sign that makes a difference, or somebody that you've never seen before shouts your name out. The charity cheer zones obviously are really important as well. Many, many charities offer these in the bigger races, and they can have a huge impact. If you're running as part of a charity team and your charity fundraising manager and some volunteers and other friends and family of runners that are in your team, we're all there in a big group at certain points, and they just give you that lift. It's really, really important. So how let's put ourselves in the spectator's position for a minute. We've obviously, as runners, we've got a huge amount of prep that we have to do for these races. And, the bigger the race, generally speaking, the more prep. So what do they have to do? And there can be quite a lot, to be honest. The first thing that you need to do is have a conversation about where on the course are they going to be. So this then acts as your motivator, your encouraging element that can just impact hugely, but also can impact negatively as well, because if you agree a place where you think they're going to be and they're not there, that can have a majorly negative impact, particularly in the last third of a marathon, where you'll be probably feeling quite emotional. And if you've agreed a place where they're going to be and they're not there, that can have a real negative. So sit down with your team and work out exactly where you're going to go. And you need to be really, really specific. Don't just say, I'll meet you at 15 miles. You need to agree exactly where at that 15-mile mark are they going to be, and what side of the road are they going to be. Because these big city centre marathons, the roads are wide. If you go to the wrong side, and you might not even see them on the other side, just because of the sheer volume of runners. You may do, but you won't be able to get over there, because if you suddenly see someone on the other side of the road as you're running past them, you've got no chance of cutting across 15, 20, 50, 100 runners to get to them. It's just not going to happen. You'll be swept along. So you absolutely must agree at exactly what point, even on the same side of the road, you can miss them. I've had many occasions in marathons where I've finished and friends and family have said, you didn't even look at me. You didn't even acknowledge that we were there. It took us ages to get to that. And I hadn't seen them because of the noise, the sheer volume of people, the noise. And they weren't quite in the place where we'd agreed, or we hadn't agreed it at all. Yeah, that can be upsetting for them as well as you. So yes, it can be a real downer for you if you miss your support crew. But imagine how it feels for them. They might have just battled through half an hour on the trains to get to that point, and you didn't even look at them. So that's not great either. How are they going to get around? It can be really, really tricky. These races, the bigger ones obviously, are incredibly busy. The trains will be packed. The roads will be virtually impossible to navigate. No one really should ever try and follow their runner on the roads, even if they think they know an area really well. Even on a smaller race, don't even think about that, because there'll be roads closed that you never even imagined. So generally it's on public transport, probably on the trains. In the case of London, it'll be the Docklands Light Railway that will be the main way that spectators will get around. And they need to do plenty of research, because otherwise they just won't have a clue of how to get from point A to B. So agree all that beforehand. What about a tracking app? Is there a tracking app where they can monitor where you are at any given point? There might well be, but don't assume that it's going to work. The volume of people at these races, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people in the city centre area when these big events are going on. So have a realistic approach to the use of these tracking apps. And a lot of people can get quite upset if they're following their runner and all of a sudden nothing happens, and they think they're still at mile 10 and they've been at mile 10 for ages. So what's happened? Oh my God, they're injured, they've fallen down or whatever. Chances are the signal's just gone. It's just gone. So don't assume that these are going to be highly accurate all the way around. Generally speaking, they are, but there will be instances where tracking apps are not. You just can't be. They're not accurate. Runners wear the right gear, hopefully. Spectators also need to wear the right gear. And I'm talking here mainly about cold weather gear, probably. All right, there'll be some races where you might spectate where it'll be nice and warm, but oftentimes if you're standing in the same place for quite some time, you're going to get cold. So make sure that your spectator crew are wrapped up warm. They've got, they should be wearing running shoes, cushioned shoes anyway, because they're going to be standing in the same place for quite some time. Nice, comfortable gear. If you don't have comfy shoes on, you could have a tough day out. So make sure that they've got the right stuff. Hats, obviously waterproof clothing. They need to make sure they've got everything they need to keep warm and happier as a result. And also make sure that they've got plenty of supplies with them, plenty of food and drink. All right, there will be places, you would hope, around most of these races where you will be able to buy stuff, but make sure that they're loaded up with goodies, particularly if they've got kids involved. So everyone needs to be happy. They need to have a portable phone charger with them, potentially some basic first aid stuff like tissues and wipes, etc. There might be some sun around, so some sunblock is always a good idea. But just some basics. Don't just pitch up at 7 in the morning with your comfy shoes and your waterproof jacket on, and that's it, you're going to have a long day. Spectators have a long day, and they need to make sure that they've got plenty of food and drink, plenty of goodies with them to make sure that the day is a positive one. And they also need to know what you're wearing. So what color running shoes are you going to be wearing? What are you wearing? A charity vest? They need to know what color that is. What color shorts are you wearing? They need to know, because there will be lots of people running that race that look like you, and from a distance can be quite deceptive. You have no idea of the volume in some of these races, the amount of people that can look quite similar, particularly from a distance. So they need to know who to look out for. So make sure they're fully briefed on what you're wearing. From top to bottom. Are you going to be wearing a cap for any period of time? Let them know that, or a hat, a woolly hat, or sunglasses. Make sure they know what you're going to look like. Right. So how can runners look after their spectator, their support crew? And the first thing that runners need to do really is to do the planning for them. It's so important for you to have a support crew with you, but don't expect them to do all the work when it comes to the planning. They're not going to be as close to this race as you are. And the chances are that in your race day instructions, there will be a guide for spectators. There will be a guide as to the best place for your support crew to be located around the course, and detailing how to get there. So you need to do the work. You need to plan where they should be. Don't expect them to do this. They may want to do it. You may have somebody in your support crew that absolutely loves the admin involved in the logistics of this kind of activity. Brilliant. That's great if you've got that. But on the whole, if you're asking people to do you a favor by turning up and spending pretty much a full day looking after you on the way around a course, you need to do the work, and you need to do the planning, and you need to make sure that they're happy. Don't rely on them to say, right, I'm going to meet you at the 15-mile mark on the left-hand side. You do that, and you do it based on the information that the race director will have sent you. Generally speaking, anyway, not always, not with the smaller races, and sometimes not with the medium-sized ones, but generally with the bigger ones, there'll always be a spectator guide. And then we're on to their supplies. So you go and get their supplies, okay? You give them the information that they need, the food and drink that they need as well, okay? So you're doing the work here. They may well say to you, no, don't worry about it. We know what we like. We'll go and get it. And that's great. If that's the case, that's brilliant. But offer, because I can't stress to you how important these people are to you on race day, and just make it easier for them. What about the finish? Well, the finish area of these races, all races, obviously differs quite significantly by event. And the bigger the race, often the tougher it is to find somewhere to celebrate together afterwards. So let's take the London Marathon, for example. London Marathon, you finish, amazing finish. You go under the finish gantry. You're then looked after with medals and T-shirts and goodie bags and all this kind of stuff. You then have to go and get your kit bag, whatever kit you left with the trucks at the start. That will have been delivered to you at the finish. You then keep walking. You should be doing your stretching, obviously. Not many people do, but you should do that. This could be, this is a long, long stretch now. We're talking, probably a kilometre best part, with all this stuff. And it's all about you. There's no members of the public allowed in that area. So it's all runners only. So you're not going to be able to meet anybody here. Otherwise, it obviously be absolute chaos. You will then move out of that restricted area into the wider area, and it is chaotic. It's so busy, and there'll be no phone signal to speak of at all at this point. So you need to have agreed with your friends and family exactly where you're going to meet. Now, there is a big area full of trees that they put signs on, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. on trees. So people often meet under the first letter of their surname. A lot of people do that. A lot of people will say, no, let's meet further away from there, and they will agree a place. If you're with a charity team, one of the bigger charities particularly, they will have a finish function, and friends and family are often invited to those. But if you are one of these people that are part of these teams, then you need to check with your charity exactly how many tickets you're able to get. You don't want to take the mick. You don't want 7 or 8 people turning out. I've seen this in the past where runners were not able to actually get into these functions because there were so many friends and family. So a lot of charities do restrict this, and it might only be 1 or 2 friends and family that are allowed to join their runner. It might be there's no one at all. So you might be in a situation where the charity says you come in for food and drink and a thank you and a massage, etc. But then you'll have to meet your friends and family a little bit later on, which is fair enough, because obviously there is a cost to this. So if that's the case, if that's you, then you just need to agree, right, I think I'm going to finish in about 5 hours. Let's leave it an hour or so for me to get through the finish and go to a function, maybe a bit more even. And then I'll meet you at X time in this location. You have to be really specific, because it's a very, very long day for the spectators to be hanging around, and they don't just want to be randomly outside some venue, not able to get hold of you, of course, because of the bad phone signal. So they need to know a time to see you and an exact location. If you're not part of a charity team, same applies. You need to agree a very specific time. If for some reason your finish time is different, well, that's just the way it goes. And I would always recommend that you add a little bit of time to your predicted finish time. And just, a bit of contingency in case things don't go quite as you are. It's very, very common for runners, particularly in their first race, to get their predicted finish time wrong. And as a result, their friends and family will be hanging around for a long time at the finish. So always be very realistic with your finish time. And if you think it's going to be 4 hours, say 4.5. If you think it's going to be 5, say 5.5. It's only fair to them. If you're there hanging around for a little bit of time because you're quicker than that, that's great. You'll have plenty of people there to talk to. You'll be just absolutely buzzing because of what you've just achieved. Your friends and family won't be buzzing if they've got to wait another half an hour because you got your predicted finish time wrong.
And now it's time for Q&A.
Right, I've got a couple of really interesting questions here. First up, I've got Jack from Dagenham. Jack says, how many times is it realistic to expect to see the same friends and family on a race like the London Marathon? It's a difficult one. I think in terms of everyone getting the most out of the experience, I think 3 times is about right. 4, depending on the course. And of course, the age of the people concerned, how many there are. If you've got young kids, can be challenging. But I would say, personally, I don't think you really need the benefits, the motivation of friends and family until probably just before halfway. So if you said, 12 miles, 16 miles, 21 or 2-ish, then that's realistic for everybody. I think I'm not saying that the more you see people, the less impactful it is. That's not the case. But for them, and I keep stressing this, think about them and think about how difficult it is to get from one location to another. As friends and family, if you've got to make sure you get to 4 different points, that can be logistically quite difficult. 3 is very achievable. So I think I would, somewhere like the London Marathon course, I would probably say 4 is doable, but not if kids are involved, particularly young kids. And 3, I think, is good. And I think that the spectators will also have a good day out if it's 3, particularly then because they can then see you at the finish as well. So, ultimately they're going to see you 4 times. So I would look at that as a realistic prospect. And following on from that, I've got Dara from Glasgow who says she's going to probably go to Brighton to watch her husband in the marathon. Should she take her young kids, 4 and 8? Well, that's a tricky one. I'd say definitely go as well and have a great weekend away. I would say that once is probably good. If you've got kids that age, I think for dad, it will be just superb experience to see the kids on the way around. And that will really be something to look forward to on the course. I think any more than that, unless it's a couple of miles apart and it's not difficult to get from one location to another. Otherwise, I think for the kids, they're probably going to be happier in a cafe somewhere just waiting. But again, on a marathon, that's a long day. However, if you're staying fairly local and it's just a case of going from the hotel to a location on the course and then back to the hotel again, then that's really doable. And I think that the kids will enjoy that, and it will be a good day out for everybody. Just don't overpromise runner, because, in this case, your husband will be very upset if he thinks he's going to see you and the kids 3 times and doesn't get to see you at all. One location, I think, is a good target in that case. And of course, it also depends on how the kids are behaving. If they're having a tough day, then you're going to be having a tough day and you'll probably want to head indoors somewhere. So appreciate the questions. As a runner, do not underestimate the value of your support crew. And support crew, do not underestimate how important support is for runners on race day. I cannot stress the impact that it can have on their motivation and the encouragement that you can give to a runner on what is a memorable day for everyone. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.